today I've got a very special surprise for you, something a little bit different. For today, it is the beginner stained glass kit. And so we're going to go ahead and get looking at that. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is, of course, put on our apron. And we're going to go ahead and check out this box that we've got here. This is the kit that the box comes in. And so we ship that out. Let's go ahead and get this all opened up here. And so we are unboxing this beginner stained glass kit. And today we've got a pretty fun project here. So you see it is all boxed up with the bubble wrap. So this is all of the glass that we're going to be using for the next few months. And then right here are the patterns. I'm sorry, next few weeks. So we've got one pattern each week, and each of the patterns use the glass that's included in here. So let's go ahead and open this up. And these are the vinyl adhesive backed patterns. So it is very easy to cut and get the right shapes and grind down a little bit if we need to. And for today, so this month we've got a landscape, kind of hard to see, a star, a seashell, and some strawberries. So for today we are doing the landscape. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside for next week. We'll be doing another pattern. And then we're going to go ahead and unwrap this glass. So this is how we pack all the glasses, just to make sure, since we ship nationwide in the United States, I want to make sure that everything gets to where it is supposed to without any problems. So we will get this all opened up. All right. Don't need that. And it's got a few layers here just for a little bit of void fill. All right. And then after it is got all the bubble wrap out, we do have a few more layers of protection here. Looks like we've got the foam with the styrofoam and the cardboards. So let's go ahead and cut all this stuff out. All right. And we don't need this. So now we can just sever all these tapes. All right. And now we can check out what glass we have to use for this month, for all of these kits for the month. So we've got a very nice blue here. That can be useful for the water, for the landscape. We've got a green here. That's useful for the trees. All right. We've got this one is an iridescent white. And this one we can use for the moon. And we've got the red here. And this one, we don't really need it for this particular pattern, but you could substitute this in for the, for the sun here instead of a moon. And it's kind of hard for you to see on the camera what this particular pattern looks like. So I'm going to trace one of them, and that will give you an idea of what we are looking at here. So this is about really quickly and roughly what we are looking at for this pattern. So I'm going to do it with all these trees as the green, these two as the blue, and the moon here as white. And that is going to get us a good start for this first glass kit. So we don't need the red. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. We will be needing that in the future weeks, especially for the strawberries. And so I think we can go ahead and start with this white glass. It's an iridescent white, which means it has a little bit of a rainbow hue. And I thought that would be a nice glass to use for the moon here. So this glass, it's mostly pretty even. It is pretty smooth on both sides. And it's hard to pick up that rainbow hue on camera here. But especially when you take it out into the natural sunlight, you'll see that much easier. So we will go ahead and get started. Now with this, you are going to want to probably cut close to the corner. That's going to give you a good yield. And all you have to do is peel that vinyl up, stick it down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sever this part so we don't cut into the rest of this piece that we're going to use for future projects. And so I just take the glass cutter, and with the oil here, I like to dip the cutter into the oil. And we're going to get this part separated. So you can, what I normally do is a little bit of tapping from the backside, and that will kind of run that score all the way through. All right. And if you haven't seen any of our videos before, this is a part of our free stained glass community called the Stained Glass Mastery Community, where we share projects and ask questions, and we have a lot of free resources, including all these patterns for free. So if you wanted to see these, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this mat. If you wanted to see these for, or to print out these patterns for free, you are welcome to do so from the Stained Glass Mastery community. And Mari Cruz, hey, thanks for joining us for our first stained glass kit, beginner stained glass kit project. So if you haven't cut glass before, what you have to do is you use this little wheel right in the center of the scoring tool, and you just apply even pressure, and it just rolls and creates a shallow scratch in that glass. And that shallow scratch is our controlled break point. And these are called grossing pliers. There's a flat end and a curved end. And I use the flat end on top, and you can kind of break it like dark chocolate, like a Kit Kat bar. And we'll just kind of chew this thing around. And the advantage of using these vinyl cutouts is you can use it as your template to grind on in case you don't cut it perfectly. And we are not machines, so we probably are going to need to do a little bit of grinding. It's not the end of the world. And what that looks like, the areas that need to be ground down, if we look up close, see there's a few little parts like this kind of sticking up. So that's going to be the area that we're going to need to grind down. So I'm going to go ahead and keep your table brush handy, sweep all that debris off. And our first piece is complete. So now we're going to go back to our little pattern, and we can go ahead and cut the green glass next. And hey Ella, thanks for joining us again. Good to see you. And so for this piece, you can see the glass, it's got this kind of directional within the wispy sort of, colors here. And so what we want to do is to keep that orientation consistent on these trees. So I'm going to draw these lines because I want that to be pretty much vertical. And this is going to help me achieve that. So we can try to get a really good yield here. And you're going to want to, again, keep those pretty much in line with the wispies, the wispiness, whatever, the colors there. And we are going to try to fit these in wherever we can. And that's going to help us to get the best yield. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. Be sure to answer those. So we will just keep kind of placing these on here, trying to get the best yield we can. And this one, it might fit. Nope, not quite. See, I'm probably going to do kind of a cut like this to try to get all these pieces off. And actually, I'm going to do this bigger piece first, and then I'll cut that smaller piece. This will give me an idea of where I should put it. So if I do something like this, then I can put this one right here. Now we've got those all, and I can do a nice cut here. So this is going to be enough glass definitely for our next projects coming up in the next few weeks. So this, these kits that we are doing, it is 4 weeks and 4 glass colors. And I did my best to really not repeat any colors. I've got about 15 kits, and it's all different glass every single week. So even if you purchase the kit, you know, we should be getting different glasses every single month. And that way you'll have a really nice variety of glass for the, you know, other projects you may want to do. Okay. See if I can get that off. There we go. So you can break it with your hands, but it can be a little bit risky. It's better to break it with the grozers as much as possible. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and start separating all these pieces. Again, tapping that score through. There we go. And you're going to want to make sure to be cutting on the smooth side. All these glasses are pretty smooth on both sides, but except for that red glass, it's actually got some texture in it. Thought that would be nice for like a strawberry texture. And so make sure when you're cutting, and you're going to know if you're not cutting on the right side. It's going to be pretty obvious. And Mari Cruz, this kit, I believe it was around $100 plus shipping. This particular glass kit with the 4 glasses and all of the patterns, the vinyl patterns. So that will pretty much is the actual just cost of the materials, and then we're doing a 5% discount. And you can see more details about that in the Stained Glass Mastery community. And I've got that, I put a link down in the chat as the very first comment there. So we'll get this all buttoned up here. Gonna get all these score marks ran. Got our first green piece. I'm gonna go ahead, as I cut them, just to kind of give me an idea, I'm gonna put them back on the pattern. And that will help me sort of keep track. Okay. So we're going to get a nice smooth cut here. And these vinyl patterns are especially useful for beginners because it kind of gives a little bit of a guide to keep that score up to. Now the alternative is you can print out these patterns or even draw them up custom yourself. And you can, you know, just cut it with a light table underneath, or if your glass is pretty transparent, you can just cut it just like that. So that is another option if you didn't want to purchase these vinyl patterns here. So we are going to get all this. And this particular project, it's pretty good for a beginner. It's got a lot of straight lines. And so that's a little bit easier to cut and foil and all that. When you get into the really thin curved lines, that's when you start to have a little bit more difficulty. You might need a little bit more skill to sort of do it quickly. But as you take your time, even a beginner can tackle a lot of these projects. So this particular piece, I think it goes right there. There we go. Okay. And I like to kind of keep sweeping off the workspace, or else you'll start poking your fingers with a bunch of little glass shards. And that is not very fun. There we go. All right. And once we get all these cut, we've got the blue gloss to do. And that is a really nice one. These most of these are from Oceanside Glass. And that's a pretty good brand. We like their gloss. We stock a bunch of their colors, so we like to use them. There we go. All right. There we go. And our last green piece, we got just 2 edges already cut. We just need to cut this curved edge right down at the bottom where the water is going to sort of be adjacent to this tree. All right. And there we have it. Got our green glass cut now. Go ahead and sweep all those shards off. We are ready now for our blue glass. Now this one also has a little bit of wispiness, kind of more random, but it is mostly, at least in this area, sort of like this. In this area, it's really kind of like this. So we're going to kind of want to do the same thing with our water. So if we're looking at the piece, we kind of want it to probably go something like this and something like this. So we're going to want to orient this properly on this glass with its direction. So this spot looks pretty good. Something like this. And as I'm placing these, of course, I'm keeping in mind where I want the, relatively decent yield here. And since it's water, an organic kind of flowing look is ideal. So if we have a little bit of wispies almost in random directions, that's perfectly fine. So we are going to try to get this cut right here without getting into our rest of our glass, because we are going to be needing the rest of this blue glass for the other projects. There we go. See, and if you just take your time, tap that score through. So this first project, we have all this glass left over. We've got all this glass left over and all of this glass left over. So you could do this project multiple times. You have lots of leftover glass to do other projects. And like I said, these kits, we are including different glasses, so you'll have a really nice variety of glass if you continue to purchase them. And some of them may have similar colors, but they'll have variations in texture and different variations like that. Some of them are iridized versus non-iridized. Oops. So here's a case where I probably should have separated these, and now I broke through my piece here. So I'm going to see if I can get it here still. I'm going to actually peel that up. I'm going to finish this cut here. And I'm a little worried about it breaking into my piece here, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the vast majority of this glass, and then that will help me to kind of break this a little bit better. And what I might even do is start to kind of chew away till I get right down to my score line. Because whenever these shapes are a little bit concave like this into itself, you have a risk of breaking right along there, something like that. And you want to avoid that if possible. Now this does make a bit of a mess, so you're going to want to clear the deck here. There we go. And you'll just keep kind of chewing it down with those grosers till you get right down to that score line. And again, this makes a little bit of a mess. Nothing a little table brush can't fix. And when we get down to the tip like this, where it's really thin, not a lot of meat, we're going to just kind of want to grind that down just to really fine tune that. This is a little bit blunt for really, really thin areas like that. You can just kind of break it right off. Eventually you get to the point where you can just break it all on the score. There we go. Now doing this, it does leave a little bit of a rough edge here, and we are going to have to go ahead and grind that down, but that's not the end of the world. That will kind of help us to not have to keep recutting them. So this one here, in order to kind of save this piece, I want to see if I can fit it on here. I think that'll be our best. There we go. And like I said, this is water. This is going to be, emulating water, so a little bit of random swirls is not the end of the world. So we are going to go ahead and cut this down. Got the first score. Now this is probably going to be one of the harder pieces for a beginner because it's got a lot of curved edges. This one and the other water piece. But, just take your time, and there's plenty of glass to do a few tries. There we go. And if it breaks, and you have to break this up into two pieces, that's not the end of the world either. You'll get better after some time, and that's to be expected, making some mistakes here in the beginning. And even as you've done it for a long time, you're going to continue making mistakes. So don't worry about it. There we go. So now all of our glass is cut, and we are ready to begin grinding everything down. So I'm going to go ahead and move the rest of this glass out of my way. Kind of do yourself a favor. And we're going to get the grinder out. And again, in case you guys have any questions, just be sure to ask. All right. So I like this tiny little grinder. It doesn't need to be anything too special here. I just use this little water bottle with a little hole cut. Helps me apply some water. Keep this grinding wheel nice and saturated. And this is a part, if you don't have pretty tough fingers, you might want to be wearing some gloves especially, because you're going to have to kind of push on the glass, the edge of the glass. So we are just taking this all the way down and using that vinyl as a guide. And this is really one of the shining spots of this vinyl here. And once you're pretty much done, I like to take it off and actually I like to put it back on the pattern so we can potentially maybe get one more use out of it. And then I'm just going to check it over, make sure everything looks good. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this to this side. And as I finish them, I'm going to go ahead and put them into the right spot. Oops, how were you supposed to go? Something like that. Okay. We can get our moon piece here. And we are just taking this down all the way. And this is going to give us a pretty good foundation for the copper foiling. So we can go ahead and take this piece off now. All right. Here's our moon piece. So this is kind of a night time going on. There we go. And sometimes what I do is I kind of use my nails to push up against the glass here, just enough to keep that edge of that glass off of my fingers, because that is when you could run into a bit of a problem, and you're going to have to open up your Band-Aid box, which is another one of the essential stained glass tools. Maybe the unsung hero of stained glass is the Band-Aid box. All right, see our little landscape here coming together. A couple trees so far. The moon. Get this all grinded down. Hey, Homemade, thank you for that compliment on the pattern. It's a nice organic vibe pattern. Everyone likes a nice serene landscape. Mary Cruz, yes, I do put water in the grinder. I use a little water bottle with a hole poked in the top, like this. And then I just kind of squirt it into the sponge right there. And that will keep applying that water to the grinder. And doing this grinding makes a good foundation for the copper foil. And I've got a bit of an unusual copper foiling setup. I personally don't like to do it by hand. It's a little less efficient than my preferred method, and you're going to get to see that today here in just a few moments. There we go. And this adhesive is pretty sticky, even with that kind of water when it gets on there. So it works out really well. All right, there we go. And these shapes are pretty easy to grind, mostly straight cuts. So that works out for us. And I normally just end up grinding all the edges, just in case there are a few annoying little shards. And that just really sets us up for a nice foiling. All right, got a bunch of trees going on here. Now we're starting our water. And this is really more of a abstract, kind of contemporary take on a landscape. A lot of stained glass kind of has these abstract concepts whenever we're trying to depict certain subjects. And this is definitely not an exception. But that's kind of one of the nice things about stained glass, is that sort of abstract element to the art. Oh, and Ella says that she tried out one of the hand foilers from Amazon and didn't like it. Yeah, this one's the creator's foiler, and I don't really like. There's another foiler. It's like a hand foiler. I'm sorry, it's a table foiler they call it. And I personally don't like that one either. I tried that one, and I found that it kind of knocks the foil off of the pieces when you go to start twisting the piece. And this one, you know, it's a creator's foiler, but the way I have it modified, I like it a lot more. And a brand of vinyl, so we actually purchase vinyl from, I believe it's from Edco, the same people that make the copper foil. And they make the adhesive back vinyl also. And so we buy the big rolls, and then we have it's like a plotter that cuts all the little shapes for all the glass. And so we cut those in our facility. And yeah, works pretty good. I like it. It's a pretty good quality product that we get from them. Haven't, we do a lot of business with Edco, so I'm not really sure. Other brands probably have suitable products too, I would think. I'm just not too familiar with them. So we've got our panel all cut and ground down. We can kind of check to see what we're looking at so far. So this is kind of the idea. It's looking pretty good so far. And up next, before we start foiling, is an extremely important part to clean the glass. And we are using kind of just any old rag that you might have. This is an old Cavallini shirt that I've got here. And so what I like to normally do is I will wear some gloves, because now we're kind of getting into the foiling preparation phase. And we want to, not get a lot of oils and stuff on them if we can avoid it. Okay, yeah, the 651 permanent vinyl. Is that from, it must be an Amazon brand, or I've never heard of that. Yeah, let me know where you might get something like that. Okay, so we've got, so what I like to do is use my glass cleaner with just any old rag, and we're going to make sure to remove all of this debris here. And that will be the best way to remove any of that glass dust, really is what it is. And so what I like to do, again, move all these pieces off of our pattern. I'm going to go ahead and dry this pattern off a little bit. And then as I finish them, I like to put them back on the pattern, and that will, again, give me an idea of how we're looking so far. There we go. All right. So again, kind of keep this rag saturated and remove all that gloss dust, especially from the edges. Since you're grinding the edges, that's also where the foil will adhere to. So it's the spot that gets the dirtiest and the spot that needs to be the cleanest. So definitely focus heavily on that spot. Where do you go? Oh, way at the end. There you are. Okay. And I'm enjoying this little pattern. It's a nice little pattern here. And for this particular pattern, we are also going to be hanging it. So we're going to install a little hook somewhere up here. I haven't decided exactly where yet. Okay, yeah, so that's an Oracle brand vinyl. Yeah, we use that Edco product. It works. I mean, it's even after grinding, it's actually kind of hard to get off. So, and it's not. It's pretty costly, I think, relative to other vinyls. But it is a little bit better, a little bit thicker too. So we like it. I don't know if they sell to people independently or if they only sell to companies. I would imagine that they do sell to individuals. I remember during COVID, we were waiting on an order for, man, it had to be like 2 years or something. It was a really long time. Finally got that vinyl in the copper foil from them. Ended up having to kind of use it's another brand called Binari, B-I-N-A-R-I. They sell the copper foil, and that works pretty good too. I haven't had any problems with it. I think I've got at least 1 or 2 of these rolls over here is from Binari. Just kind of depends who's got what we need at the time, you know. But I don't think that they sell the vinyl. And really, this vinyl that we use it is thicker, and it's actually meant for, well, what we mostly use it for is for etching glass. So, sometimes we have to etch the glass for various projects, and that's really what it's meant to resist that media blasting or sand blasting, if you will. So that's, its main purpose that we use it for. This is sort of a little side purpose for it. Okay. So, got our green pieces done now, doing the moon, making sure it is nice and clean. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions. And this is our first stained glass beginner kit. So I've been enjoying this. It is a part of our stained glass mastery community. If you haven't seen that, it's just a free stained glass community. And yes, Ella, yeah, like a stencil. Yeah, we essentially, we can do any sort of design. Most of the projects we do are for churches. So we might need to do like a cross or a angel or something like that. And, the glass can be pretty substantial in terms of the size. It can be, 2 foot by 4 foot. It could be, we've got one project at a country club right now. It's 4 foot by 10 foot. It's a pretty substantial size of glass. And so that's why we've, this printer, it prints up to 24 inches wide, and it can do whatever the roll length is. So you can get pretty elaborate pretty quickly. Okay. And we're cleaning up our last blue piece. And I'm liking the way our little pattern landscape here is fitting together. All right. There we go. Let's see here. Okay, that's pretty much what we're looking at right there. So that's looking pretty good so far. So now we are ready to move on to the copper foiling. And as promised, here is the copper foiling setup that I've got here. So what I like to use, in case you haven't seen this before, it is the Creator's Foiler, and I use the blue foil caddy, and it just feeds the different foils into it. And I store my FID and my X-Acto blade, and it just works out really, really well. So that is something I always recommend, something I've been doing for a long time, because I just prefer it so much more compared to the hand foiling. And sometimes I'll use scissors, but lately I've been using these lead dikes to go ahead and cut off the foil. It just seems like it's a little bit easier than the scissors sometimes. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and move all these off, and I'm going to put my pattern to the side. And again, as I finish them, I like to put them on the pattern. So this is really simple the way it works. See if I can get you a little bit of an overhead view here. So all you do is take the piece of glass, insert it into the groove here, and then push it. It's got a little bearing that this glass sort of rolls on. Oops. And when you push into that groove, it centers that foil right on that glass. And when you get to the beginning, you just pull it out a little bit, snip it down, and then overlap it, at least a 1/4 inch if you can. And now we can see that it's got a pretty nicely centered foil, and we want to fold this foil over onto the face and zip it up to the corner like a zipper, and then, or a Ziploc bag I should say, and then fold it back over the face and zip it all the way up. Get back to the corner, fold it over just like that. And see how it gives you a nice even reveal on both sides and how quick that was. It's really hard to beat. So that's why I just cannot go back to hand foiling. Just can't do it. Now, I prefer to keep this on the edge because it'll give you a little bit more space, you know, from right here off of the edge, or else you'll kind of hit the table as you're trying to spin pieces through it. So, go ahead and insert this. And it just is perfectly centering this thing up all the way around. There we go. And you can see even on this really complex shape, it just works like a charm every time. Works so good. Now the only problem that you run into with this little foiler is that occasionally the glasses, you know, they're man-made and all that, so you know they're not perfect every single time. They might be a little bit too thick, and it can be kind of hard to fit it in there. It's not often that this happens, but you know occasionally you either have to kind of really jam it in there, and it works out okay, or you have to hand foil it. Not the end of the world, especially when most of the time it works perfectly, but that is one of the cons that I have kind of found with it. And the size of foil that we're using here is 7/32, and you need the foiler to be corresponding the same exact size. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, we are not going to be burnishing this yet. We're going to finish foiling everything, and then we're going to go back and do all of the burnishing. So we've got our blue pieces done, ready for the green glass here. All right, there we go. And again, get back to the beginning, pull it out a little bit, snip it with the lead dikes, or you can use scissors. And some people, they even just kind of split it, tear it with their hands. So you can do that either way. All right. And again, just zipping it up, folding it over. There we go. Perfect, just like that. Okay. Got our first tree. As Bob Ross would say, happy tree. Happy tree in our beginner stained glass kit. Now these small pieces can be a little bit more tedious, which is contrary to what you might believe. You would think maybe the bigger piece would be harder, but really the smaller pieces, they're just a little bit harder to grab sometimes. So you kind of have to be really careful about that. There we go. All right. Same process. Same process. Okay. Seeing our little panel come together over here. Really like the way that foil looks, that kind of shiny looking foil. Okay. Too bad we got to solder it. We lose that, but it's okay. Might have to try doing a copper patina here one of these days. I keep saying we're going to do it, and I keep forgetting to switch out the backing here. Yeah, some people are a little bit silly when it comes to hand foiling versus the, you know, the little shortcuts you can take or tools you can use to make it a little bit easier, even a little bit better. You can see how this thing really just does a nice even reveal in a really pretty quick amount of time. Now, I'm not saying some people are not, you know, machine-like when it comes to hand foiling, but I think that with the same sort of learning curve that it takes to do this creator's foiler, I think you can have just as good results and even maybe better and faster. And like you said, people can get frustrated and quit. So at the end of the day, whatever works for you and is going to really give you the kind of quickest results to enjoying the process, that's kind of win in my book. I don't want to make it into something that's not enjoyable. And for me, this is really the most enjoyable way to do it. All right, there we go. All right. There we go. Got our... And I have been seeing people posting their projects in the Stainless Mastery group. I really enjoyed seeing everybody's projects there. So again, hope to see more people in there, and especially posting their weekly projects that we've been doing. That is a really good time for me. And even seeing some of the other things people are working on that are, not even related to the projects that we're doing in these weekly live streams. They're pretty impressive. Even giving me some ideas and people thinking out of the box. It's pretty enjoyable to see all that. And Happy Squirrel, yes, we do sell the foil. We sell all the pieces here. This is the Creator's Foiler. This is the foil caddy. And this is just a piece of 2x4 wood that you have to get at Home Depot or something. But yeah, and then I just screwed it down with a couple little, pieces of wood and a screw there. And if you look inside there, you can see a little screw. I just screwed this down to the 2x4 also. And that keeps everything really nice and neat together. And now there is something we do need to look at here. Little mistake I made, not a major issue, just something to consider. Now if you look closely here, I'm actually going to go into the close camera over here. You see we've got a little bit of a non-smooth transition right here. I'm going to go ahead and take my gloves off because we're pretty much done with the foiling here. And it'll be a little bit easier for me to handle. Now I take this X-Acto blade. See right here we've got a non-smooth transition. So we're just going to put the X-Acto blade and do a little surgery. That's all it takes right there. And now we've got a nice smooth transition. So you're going to want to kind of be on the lookout for that as you are, doing your project. Oh, I forgot to foil this piece. Okay, we got one more to do. How could I forget the moon? All right, there we go. We're going to go ahead and pull this out. There we go. And now we can just fold this thing all the way over. All right. Now we are ready to begin burnishing. Since I got this piece right here ready. Now, I'm not going to put this away totally. I'm just going to move it to the side because we might have to fix a few injuries that occurred during the burnishing. And that is not the end of the world. Now, with the burnishing, you want to make sure to do the edge first because you do not want to lock in any air bubbles inside of the edge in case you do the two faces first. And then once the edge is done, you want to do the face in towards the center. You don't want to go out, center out, because you're going to start knocking that foil off of the edge. And so here's a little injury. I'm going to have to put a little bit more foil on there. But I'm going to go ahead and finish burnishing first. And then we'll go back and take care of that part. I'll kind of give you a little bit of a close-up of that injury. Just because I kind of pushed that foil a little bit too hard and it's severed right there on the corner of the glass. So we're going to go ahead and finish both sides. And as you do this, you can kind of see that foil, it kind of smooths out. It kind of becomes the texture of the glass underneath. And we're going to go ahead and look at the close camera. Where did I do that injury? Right here. Oops, a little bit too close. There we go. See that injury? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back over here to the foiler, and I'm just going to take a little bit out and just overlay it. And a little overlay is okay. Don't let people let you think otherwise. See that little part right there? We're just going to overlay that a little bit. And then we can trim it down with the X-Acto blade, and it will be good as new. So we're going to go ahead and move to the close camera. Now what I like to do first is to definitely burnish it, the new foil, and then we're going to go ahead and trim it down. And I probably went a little bit overkill in terms of the how far over the face here, but that is all right. So I'm just going to take the X-Acto blade and just trim it really close to what that radius is of that little circle. Just make it nice, smooth transitions. And there we go, just like that. All right. So we've got our first piece burnished. Go ahead and move all of these off to the side. And again, putting them on as we finish them. So we are doing the edge first, making sure that is all completely adhered. And then the bases. Taking our time here. This is a very important step. Any sort of flux or other impurities getting up underneath that glass, it will cause you problems. And it's just better to do it right now instead of doing it wrong now, having to redo it later. That is what you want to avoid. All right. And occasionally you might see me doing the same side twice. And the reason why is because I actually forgot I did the other side already. I'm not sure if I did that just now. But if you do see that, that is what is going on. Okay. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far. The first stained glass beginner kit. And we've got some pretty fun beginner kits planned for the future. Right now, off the top of my head, we've got one is a husky. Not this month. Okay, this month we've got the star, the seashell, the strawberries. So that's for this month. But in future months, the ones that I can remember, we've got some whales. We've got some golden retrievers. Well, really just one. Golden retriever. Husky, some cats, a few different variations of cats. I think we have a deer, like a little baby deer type thing in there somewhere. What else do we have going on? A lot of stuff. Oh, some dragonflies, some insects. Oh, we've got some desserts, pancakes, stuff like that. That's pretty good. It's pretty tasty. What else do we have going on? A lot of cool kits coming up. And again, all those patterns are available for free in the Stained Glass Mastery community. All right. And we did do the scrap box projects the last few weeks. I enjoyed those. Those were pretty fun. Might have to bring that back. I do have kits pretty much planned for the foreseeable future, but I don't know, we might throw something in here and there, especially because some months actually have 5 weeks instead of 4 weeks. So we might be able to squeeze something in there. That's pretty fun. I enjoy that. Oh, we've got another place where we've got this non-smooth transition. We're going to have to go ahead and take care of that with the X-Acto blade. And the way that this foil just really smooths out onto that glass looks really good. All right. Got our last green piece here. Then we can do a nice close-up of the foiled pieces. And Connie asked, what size are the glass sheets in the glass kit? So it varies. This week they are 12 by 12 from Oceanside Glass. And the way that we did it is we just did our typical pricing of all the glasses combined. You know, we just added each piece. And then we took 5% off. So that's kind of what the kit pricing is compared to just buying it individually. It's the same cost of buying individually minus 5%. Got a little injury here we're going to have to take care of. Just going to take a little bit of foil out from over here. And when it's really small like this, sometimes you actually kind of have to do it by hand. And again, that is okay. There we go. Go ahead and burnish that down, and we'll trim it to size with the X-Acto blade. Okay. There we go. All right. Now, let's see. Oh, this one I needed to kind of just trim this down just a little bit. Just enough. It's not much, and it makes a big difference. This one I think I might have forgot to burnish on this side. Probably check over all these pieces, make sure. All right, now we got all our green and white pieces done. Ready for this wavy blue. Kind of a complex cut there, not too bad. Really not too bad. Really liking the way this is coming out so far. All right. There we go. Make sure to get all those curves. Just take your time with it. You don't want to be severing that foil. There we go. Especially where it folds over, it can kind of bunch up a little bit. And this particular fit is my favorite. It's got this flat end here. None of this glass is textured, but if it was, that flat end will fit in there really nicely. And it'll help that foil to get in between all that texture. Make the finished product just a little bit better that way. Now, personally, it might not be a bad idea, I think, to print out this pattern so that way you have something to solder on top of. We're going to kind of wing it here once we take it off our little pattern. And I think it'll come out perfectly fine, but you know, especially if you need to make something to fit into a specific size. For example, to fit into a picture frame or a window opening, something like that, you will need to definitely use a pattern. But for something like this, it's just a window hanging or a sun catcher, if you will. We don't really need to have a perfect size. And Ella, no, we do not. We only have the stained glass mastery community so that we can include course materials and all those free resources. You don't really have that same capability on Facebook, unfortunately. To my knowledge, anyway. To my knowledge. Okay. So this is pretty much our foiled, you know, thing here, our foiled sun catcher. So what I want to go ahead and do is get this off of the paper, off of this pattern. We're going to put this away in case we want to do another one of those another time. And we are going to get this ready for soldering. So I want to click on, I got this recently, let me show you this from the free camera. Recently I got this little clicker to turn on my soldering iron, and I've got it mounted up here with a little clip. Keeps it away from anything that can, you know, cause a fire, or keeps it way out of the way so I don't burn myself. Been really enjoying that little setup recently. Okay, so we're going to do here, I am going to go ahead and put on my gloves again. And we're going to need the heat-resistant gloves shortly. But for the moment, we are going to just use the nitrile gloves. And what we need to do is use the little bit of flux here. And we've got our solder. We're going to want to really make sure this is in the right spot. And we're going to make sure all this glass is oriented properly on these waves. And this, there we go. All right. And this is looking pretty good. And so what we want to do here, especially for this pattern, we want to make sure that this moon is making contact in a few places here. So that's important. You know, we've got pretty minimal gaps here, so that's good. And I think that we're probably going to put the little hook probably right here, or maybe, probably we're going to put the wire around here, do the jumping on top of the moon here, and then continue that wire down, and we'll hit those two joints. So that is the plan. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the fume exhaust over here into the right spot. Oops, caught on the grinder there. Got it. Okay, go ahead and turn this on. All right. Get this pipe in the right spot. Okay. So what we're going to do is just take a little bit of flux. We don't need much here. And we are going to just tack this in to start. And thank you, Ella and Bonnie. Yes, this is starting to look really good. I'm really pleased with it so far. Hope you guys are enjoying this. We are going to, there we go. I'm just going to try to get these, you know, just the points of intersection. And make sure to get this one. Don't forget that spot. That's an important spot right there. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Gonna go ahead and see if our iron is hot. It is. Let's see if it's hot enough though. And it is. So what I like to do, let's see if I have my wire brush here. What I will pretty often do is, in order to make sure the solder is pretty clean, I like to just wire brush off that tip, and that'll help to remove any stuff that I don't want to be in our panel. Just like that. See how it's nice and shiny now? So, and this is just what I do. I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, just showing you what I like to do. So we're going to go ahead and tack everything together. There we go. And you're going to see how strong this thing is just from a few little tacks of solder. Okay. Now you don't need a big fume extraction like this thing. You can just get one from Amazon. They work pretty good. They're a little bit louder. That's the only reason why I didn't opt for one here, because I need to talk on the microphone. But like I said, they do work, you know, pretty good, to tell you the truth. I used one for a long time. It's one of the products I sort of wanted to look into, but we just haven't quite looked into it yet for a good source. Okay. So just with these few areas tacked, it's holding. So that's kind of the reason why I like to do that. And now I'm just going to really lather it all up with the flux, and we're going to get right to it. There we go. Now the purpose of this first run is to kind of tin all of the foiled surfaces. We're not looking for a perfect finished product yet. We're just going to get this this first round here done, and then we will continue on to the back side, and then we're going to do our finished beauty bead, they call it. So we're kind of tinning all the edges, make sure every little bit is covered with some solder. And our, oh, you know what? We'll do the wire a little bit later, mostly from the back side, because we want, we want it to be non-visible. So we'll do it the opposite of the viewing side. And a little bit of that wire will really reinforce that hanging point. Okay, so we've got this side pretty much tinned up. We've got our beautiful foil on this side too. We're going to go ahead and flux it all up, just like this. This is probably a little bit, overboard, but that's okay. I don't let the flux police get to me. The flux police or the gap police. So you need gaps or you don't need gaps, or you have too much flux or too little flux. Don't worry about all that stuff. At least I don't. We're going to get a nice, good bit of solder on there. All right. I'm liking the way this is coming out so far. Now, sometimes you'll get a little bit of flux in between the two surfaces, and it'll start to bubble up. That is a good reason to wear some safety glasses, because that would hurt in the eyes. I would consider that a pretty big mistake. And again, we're going to reinforce this moon with that wire, so that will really make sure we're not going to have any problems in the long run. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to do a nice beauty bead on this side while we're here, and then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Make sure everything looks really good. There we go. All right. And one more run for good measure. Okay. So we've got a little bit of buildup like right here between these two trees. We're going to go ahead and take care of that on the edge beading. But for now, let's try to see how it kind of really makes it a little bit nasty looking. Let me see if we can get this a little bit of a better view. See all this kind of flat areas? We want it to look nice and rounded over. So I'll try to do this with one hand if I can. I might need to add a little bit of solder. So this spot is okay, and this spot not so much. So sometimes you need to add a little bit of solder. Sometimes you need to add a little bit of flux. Sometimes the more you mess with it, the worse it gets. So we're gonna, it might be a little bit too warm right now because we did the backside, so we're gonna let that spot cool, see if I can work on another spot. Sit, there we go, so that looks good. And again, when we go back to edge bead, I want to take care of all those big buildups between the trees. All right. Okay. Do a nice bead here. And this is a little bit flat still. I want to kind of see if I can round that over. There we go. There we go. Now we're going to see if this is cooled down enough that we can kind of start to round it over. There we go. Okay. Just taking my time here. It's one of those things you really almost have to do a, you really need to just practice. It's really difficult to do to just watch it and know what you need to do. You really have to do a lot of practicing. Okay, now that we've pretty much got this all, let's see. We have this all pretty much soldered on the face here. We are going to probably want to edge bead it. We definitely want to edge bead it. And in edge beading, we're going to want to also install our little wire here. So, let's see if I can find something here. What we're going to do, kind of something like this. And then we want for it to kind of twist around the moon, kind of like this, and like this. So this is definitely enough right here. Let's see if I give you the overhead, you might be able to see a little better. So this is definitely enough right here. We're going to want this big enough to we can fit a chain in there if we need to, if we want to, I should say. And then we're going to kind of bend this around. And then when we edge bead it, we're going to try our best to make this little wire disappear. That's going to be kind of our best bet. And I would say that this can pretty much, I'll just continue it down into this tree, something like that, and I'll terminate it right exactly there. So it'll kind of be right there. And then I'll see where this part ends up after we finish that. So I'm going to flick this around on the backside. I'm going to go ahead and get this right into that corner. And these little wires get hot pretty quickly, so you have to be really careful. I might need to get out my heat-resistant gloves. I want to try to submerge this. There we go. So I got that submerged into the solder to start. And then I'm going to bend the wire to the contour of the glass. And then as we keep working it up towards the loop, we'll keep bending it, keep bending it, keep bending it to the right sort of contour. Now let's see here how we can do this. Got a little bit of an obstruction here. See if I can clear that. A little bit of a solder obstruction. And you've got to be really careful working with these at this point because it's very hot. There we go. So that will be good enough to kind of edge bead right into there. And hey, Cynthia, no worries. Thanks for joining us. There we go. So what I like to do is I'll just kind of bend the solder up like this so that I can kind of take it and then apply it as I need to, instead of needing to use two hands to do it, because I might have to manipulate this wire at the same time. And it's getting really hot. The heat is conducting from the wire already. So I might have to go ahead and definitely get my little gloves here in a moment. Okay. So what we're going to need to do here is definitely get yourself a pair of heat-resistant gloves. That will save your hands. And I just keep my nitro gloves on because some stuff can travel through this little material, flux and stuff like that. So we've got a pretty big buildup here, and we're going to want to really try to reduce that. So I'm going to use gravity to let it drip out. And then from this side, I'm going to try to use the gravity to submerge the wire. That will hide it, and it will make it really, really well adhered, soldered, and all that. So I'm going to just keep working it up as we make little progress, solder a little bit, and then kind of keep bending it to the contour of that circle. Okay, now we're just going to get this soldered on to start, and then we can kind of pretty it up with the edge beading in a little bit. So we can kind of go back after this thing is all well adhered, and we can do this edge beading like that. But the first step is to get it perfectly adhered. So we've got one side of it pretty well done. Now let's go ahead and keep on bending this to be just the right radius. And you might even have to start it from the top like this. Just take your time with it. There we go. So we got that bridge sort of connected there. And so when we hang it, it'll kind of, hang like that. And Benetti from Argentina, thank you for joining us today. Now, if you get some little droplets of solder on the table, try not to use those because they kind of get burned, little wood in them, and it just contaminates the rest of your project. So I know it can be tempting not to waste any of these little bits of solder, but just trust me, don't do that. You have to take my word for that one. Okay. And this would be absolutely impossible without my heat-resistant gloves right now. So we don't sell that. That's probably another product that we should look into. That would be something I definitely would recommend. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this wire down, and I'm going to really solder it into this intersection here. And this thing ain't going anywhere. It's looking pretty good so far. Got a little bit more to go here. There we go. Just take a little bit, kind of work it till it starts to edge bead. And little by little, it will just make that jump, just like that. And it all becomes one, Okay. So that's looking pretty good. So we're just going to want to kind of touch this up a little bit, get a lot of these big old, globs of solder out of there. I don't like the way that looks personally. I'm going to just stick the iron in there, let gravity kind of take them away. And then what we can also do is go back and we need to do some edge beading. So you see we've got a lot of copper exposed here. And Homemade is asking where our facility is located. So we're out of San Antonio, Texas, and we, of course, ship stained glass supplies nationwide in the continental United States. And we do have a studio that completes church window projects, repairs, new commissions, and protective coverings. And we do that nationwide also. So, yeah, in case you guys need any sort of assistance with those types of projects. All right, so what I like to do is I like to go ahead and flex all of the edges here. And these are a little bit harder to get to probably inside of this void, but I think we can manage. So again, keeping our solder kind of up at an angle like this. That way we can just keep grabbing it and keep applying it as needed. Now that everything is nicely flexed, we can go ahead and edge bead it. And you're really kind of just taking some solder droplets and letting them flow with gravity across that edge, trying to get a nice rounded edge much as you can. And it helps when it's not too hot, so that it can kind of keep its shape to some degree. If it's way too hot, it'll just keep getting really runny and you won't have any luck. So you kind of have to move quickly. And if you have a rheostat for your iron, it would be helpful to turn it down a little bit. Or if you have a temperature controlled iron on the handle. I don't, so I just, if it gets too warm in a certain spot, I'll just move to a different spot for a little bit and come back. Like this spot, for example, I'm probably going to need to come back to just to round that over just a little bit more. Let's see if I can get it, or if it'll just keep running on me. Yeah, I'm going to need to, it's a little bit better, but I'm going to want to come back to that. And we're just going to keep on touching up the bottom here. Making sure everything looks nice and smooth. Nicely rounded over. Make sure no copper is exposed. This is an important step for aesthetics, but also the strength of the panel. You don't want it to have a really thin little tinned edge. You want it to have a little bit of solder on there. Make it a little bit more substantial. Keep that foil rigid instead of kind of a little bit flimsy, if you will. If you have a little bit of a thicker bead on there, it'll keep that a little more rigid. Versus if it's real flimsy, really thin, it'll just be really flimsy. We'll just try to snake nice smooth transition right there. And this is where you kind of have to use gravity. Let it run down where you need it. And my solder is getting pretty low. I'm going to have to readjust it. Get it up a little bit higher. There we go. Set this down for just a moment. Unwind this a little more. Okay, now that's way high up there. Okay, there we go. So we got that. So now we've got a lot of these points to do. So definitely we're going to need the gloves to help us go back and forth. And while you're sort of in that position, you can kind of get all the surfaces that are, where it's advantageous due to the gravity. And then when you get all those, you can flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Let me see, you might actually see a little bit better like this. So I've got this sort of straight down like that. And I can go ahead and do all of the areas that are advantageous that are straight down like that. Make sure everything looks nice and smooth. Round it over. There we go. And we're going to want to do the same thing where we had our little wire. So try to just round that over as much as you can. Might not be perfect, but a little bit better is better than nothing. And remember, if you mess with it too much, you're probably going to mess it up. So a little bit can go a long way, and too much can set you back. Okay. So now I mostly want to touch up all of the face. A few areas where the face is a little bit messy looking. And this is the back side, so we're going to do the back side first, because the front side we want to be our final, our final look, and to take care of any little things that still need to be done. There we go. All right. So we've got the back side done. And you start to get a lot of these little solder droplets here. Normally just take a rigid object, you can kind of scrape them up. It becomes molten, the solder, so it kind of fits into all the little ridges of your table. There we go. Can be a little bit tricky to get all that stuff out of there. Okay. So now we are going to finish the front side here. Just try to really neaten it up. And it's looking pretty good already. I'm just going to do a quick few runs here. Just try to really get this as nice as we can. There we go. And I'm pretty comfortable with the way this looks. I think now I'm going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up, and then we can get to the patina. And again, just using our rag, and I'll use a little bit of glass cleaner. And yeah, Ella mentioned that she used to have a problem with the solder having a lot of spikes that would poke her. And probably maybe not enough flux. It might be sort of like not sticking well, and it does a weird pattern when it dries. Could be maybe a little bit of flux in there, and it was bubbling up. It's pretty funny though, have that problem. Glad you got that figured out. And really at this point, we kind of don't need the gloves anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and take the heat-resistant gloves off. I'm going to keep my nitrile gloves on because we're still working with some chemicals here. And I'm going to really try to clean this up really well. Try to get any sort of debris out. Use your little wire brush as needed. There we go. Just get this all cleaned up. Oops, a little piece of solder there. And now we are ready to go ahead and do our patina. So we used a black backing here. So we are going to go ahead and move forward with a black patina. And I've got one right here. So I'll just saturate my rag here. And we'll just apply it pretty heavily. We don't need to be too stingy with this. And you are going to, again, want to wear some nitrile gloves. There is a substantial, it's a pretty substantial chemical here. It's an acid. So you're not going to want to really keep that on your bare hands. At least I don't recommend you to do something like that, personally. And you can do a few coats and just kind of let it sit for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and do the back side. And this, definitely this wire is very well secured, so we'll have no problems hanging it from this position. We'll do our best to really patina all these edges and every place that we can. Go ahead and do one more coat here. Then we're going to get everything all cleaned up. And that will pretty much be the end of the first week of the beginner, the stained glass beginner kit for April. All right. Well, I think this is looking pretty good, everyone. I very much hope you enjoyed it. We're going to get to see it up close here in just a moment. Let me get it all cleaned up. Get a nice scrubbing all that oil and anything that's left over there. And Homemade mentioned that it's missing a little wolf here for the landscape here in the forest. It'd be nice to do something like that. I think we have a wolf plan for a future kit, so be sure to check those out. And with that, everyone, we've got our landscape here done, and if you hang it, it hangs pretty nicely from the moon there. So I hope you enjoyed this very much. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. And check out the free stained glass mastery community, where we have tons of free resources, tool list, course material, and free patterns, great community with other artists. So be sure to check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. And again, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week. Goodbye.